Hello and welcome to Is This the Norm? Please be sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, Pandora, and now YouTube. And thank you so much in advance for listening. My name is Laura.
I'm Rebecca.
And I'm Heather, and today I'm going to be discussing why are we afraid of spiders, right? We all probably have our own theories, I guess. So, Laura, Rebecca, why do you think some people are afraid of spiders?
Because they haven't encountered cockroaches yet.
True.
Because their mom put the fear of God into them when spiders were around.
Hey, all right, let's see. You think sounds like what you're saying is
I
you're
think
more
that it's
about
other people's influences.
nurture.
Because as babies, we have no idea. We're not scared, but other people's reactions and how they respond to spiders is what creates that fear, possibly.
All right. So yeah, the theories are that we're born that way, that over generations of when we were nomadic and living in caves, that we figured out to be afraid of like spiders and snakes because they're deadly, right? That's one of the theories. And there's been some research on it. But first, before we get into that, some basic fear facts. A lot of people are afraid of creepy crawlies like snakes and spiders, right? Some researchers think we are born with these fears. Evidence suggests that children aren't so afraid, making the case that we aren't born this way, right? Instead, like Laura said, parents, their fear responsives and negative language about snakes and spiders is passed down to us as fears through the generations. So if your mom or dad makes you like, oh, spider, meh, oh, snake, blah. So then you learn to be afraid of it. And you're like, well, my parents are afraid of it. I should be afraid of it too. Oh my gosh. And so then you have this cycle of every generation being afraid of spiders and what have you. So about a quarter of all Americans report having a fear of spiders and insects. Now we're not talking about phobias. That's a whole nother podcast. Arachnophobia. Some people might, say like, "Oh, I have arachnophobia." No, you don't. You just have to watch some videos or do some research about what people do when they do have actual arachnophobia. So I remember when I was in community college, I took a class that was specially offered by a really cool psych teacher. It was called abnormal psychology. I think it was abnormal psychology because we talked about sociopaths or psychopaths as we know it. Along with other fears and what that looks like. So what they call that, I don't know if the DSM-5 still calls that, but you have these things when you have these ridiculous fears called maladaptive behavior. Has Rebecca left us? I don't know what happened there. She might be taking care of Loki. So we have these things called maladaptive behaviors in response to things, which means it's, you shouldn't be responding that way to a certain thing, whether that's OCD behavior, spiders, snakes, so on and so forth. So I just remember this one video we watched in class where this lady had this ritual where every day she had to get up and like sweep her whole house, like floors, ceilings, to make sure there wasn't any spider webs. Like it took her, I think it like took up like 3 to 6 hours of her day because I don't think she just did it once. Like, and I can't remember the whole ritual. I just remember her with this broom just like going all around her house, like crazily making sure there's no spider webs, no spiders. Like she was not only just fearful of the spider, but the webs themselves can be there. There was, of course, much more to this video, and this is this is early 2000s, so 2000 probably 2 is when I was taking this class. So it's probably a very old video, and there's probably much more research out there. But I just remember that specific woman and her fear of spiders, and it was like, whoa, that's a lot of work. Which it's crossover into the OCD, so it's multiple issues going on with the mental instability. I don't know if it's unstable, but it's not just arachnophobia. Usually there's a crossover to OCD because those behaviors, it's kind of like flicking the switch 10 times before you can go into bed, checking the stove, God knows how many times,
I think
making sure the doors are
there's
locked.
a lot of crossover with any phobia.
Yeah. So
ritualistic
when people
expression
type behaviors, right? So is fear of spiders biological? So, a prevailing hypothesis is that fear of spiders is biological in some researchers, I'll get it, that it is something hardwired in our brains to help protect us from danger. So, they did this study with infants where they showed them a bunch of pictures of like spiders and then flowers and snakes and then fish and then measured the pupil dilation to measure their fight or flight response. Why infants? Well, the researchers did this so they, wanted to make sure that any observed behavior was indeed built in and not learned from their parents yet. So they did find that pictures of spiders elicited a stronger response than the pictures of flowers and snakes. Or sorry, response to the spiders more than with the flowers, like the pupil dilation, and then more with snakes versus fish. However, there were some issues with the claims and methods of that study. So it's in no position to make any strong conclusions of inherent alleged ancestral traits, right? So let's talk about the issues with this study, which I kind of picked up on right away. I was like, I bet it's this, that, or the other. So they
Well,
combine two
babies,
fundamental claims.
even like
Go
young,
ahead.
because an infant isn't like 2, 3 weeks old. Like infant is a year or younger. So at like 9, 10, 11, 12 months, babies are already learning from our parents what to be afraid of and what not to be afraid of by that time. I don't know how old these babies were, but I'm assuming they were old enough to where like you've got to get some reaction. And by then, in my opinion, it's already too late. They've already learned. But I could be wrong.
Right. And
I
no,
just
these
wanted to
babies
say that
were
before you started.
like, yeah, and there's another study where they are like 9 months old, and that's has a different outcome. These babies are like infant, where they
Oh, okay.
haven't been
Teeny tiny.
exposed. Yeah, teeny
Okay.
tiny.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah. So there's another study that's subsequent to this that I'll get into and explains why this study in particular is not trustworthy. I don't know if that's a good way to say. I just wouldn't give it a lot of weight. So, so the issues with the study of the really tiny infants is they combine two fundamental claims that don't go together. Namely, that spiders and snakes posed a threat to primates and early humans. That assumption is just put out there. And secondly, that pupil dilation is correlated with fear or negative stimuli. So how did they get past that? Well, the researchers didn't provide any evidence from the zoological or the paleontological, I think I said that right, which is the study of prehistoric life through fossils. So they didn't provide any literature from either one of those types of research to show how or why spiders would have been dangerous to primates. So they just kind of came to a conclusion without a proper analysis from zoological or paleontological researchers. Nor do they discuss any publication that deals with the interaction of early humans or primates and snakes and or spiders. While in the case of snakes, information can be found that such studies involving spiders are while in the case of snakes, information can be found. However, involving spiders, it's scarce or non-existent. So spiders do not pose a threat or medically or risky for humans in general. And that's been shown in other research. And most probably never did during primate evolution, and in particular during early human evolution. So again, there's no backing to show that it's this inherent fear that because of what happened to our ancestors, that now it's inherent in when we're born. The researchers also, their interpretation of pupil dilation measurements to support their hypotheses is also very prone to multiple criticisms. In both the experiments, so they had a study 1 and study 2, the items are color matched, but they are not matched for shape, so they're disproportionate, right? So fish are presented in a lateral view in that study, and flowers mainly in a frontal view. In contrast, the pictures of the spiders are more complex than those of the flowers and the fish. The same was true for 2 of the snake pictures, both of which had their heads like pointing towards the observer in like a striking position. So other research has shown that pupil dilation correlates with the complexity of the task. Simplistically putting it is that the pictures of flowers and fish were very simplistic versus the snakes and the spiders had more detail and complexity, which required your pupils to dilate to try to figure out the picture.
That's
So what
kind
does
of
that
what
mean?
I was thinking, not this specifically, but what I was thinking was like, well, spiders are black and brown, and flowers and fish are bright colors. So for the darker colors, I would think that your pupils would dilate because they're lighter or a darker color, whereas like the lighter colors, they would constrict because they're brighter. Like your eyes constrict in sunlight and in dark rooms open up.
Mhm.
Obviously I'm wrong. That's not what you're saying, but that's kind of where I was getting at. I was like, what are these pictures about and what are they seeing in terms of, yeah,
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 what
they
they
and it
could
could
look
be a
like.
combination of both the
Maybe.
light
Yeah.
or the colorness and the complexity of the picture. Like you're going to
But
have more
yeah, you're
lines
going to
or
dilate to
3D
see
type.
more detail.
Hmm.
Yeah,
and
Right.
it sounds like they
for
didn't
sure.
have very good controls, honestly.
Right. Yeah.
No, no. Well, they did a control, which showed, and I'll get to that. So that's a good point, Rebecca, which it's like they came to it's kind of like these researchers went with this conclusion because they wanted to fit whatever conclusion they could come up with to fit the narrative that they
Yeah.
were
They had a
starting with before the
predisposition.
study. Yeah.
Right.
So,
They
anyways,
were
I'll get to
leaning
that.
into something.
Which is very typical of scientists to do this. This isn't like
Well,
not been
and
done before.
humanity, not just scientists. Like this is human
Right.
nature, and that's where the science has to come in and prevent that from occurring. It's easy to do, right? But it's
Hmm.
their job not to do
Right.
that, right? No, we know that now.
So, to kind of show that this theory or hypothesis is BS, another research group employed the same experiment with different parameters in order to conclude that in infants, increasing complexity of color matched pictures triggers the pupil dilation, and or that animals have a higher potential to cause pupil dilation than plants, right? So what does that mean? The complexity. So if you have like a picture of an animal that has more dimension, the pupils are going to react. And then if you have a plant, it's more or less dimension, very simplistic compared to the animal, so the pupils don't dilate as much. So when they did this other control, another research group did it just with like random pictures of animals and plants, the pupil dilation happened. So it could be, an
Eyeballs.
animal that wouldn't. Yeah, what's that?
Eyes. Eyeballs. They had eyes compared to plants don't have eyes. You know what I mean?
Right, right. So, well, not they weren't doing the research on animals. They were showing infants pictures of animals and plants, including animals that wouldn't be an inherent threat like they claimed, and they had reactions to the animals with pupil dilation versus the plants because the different complexity of the pictures.
Right. But I mean, animals have eyes, plants don't. They're used to seeing like their parents and siblings and
Hmm.
looking at, we make eye contact. You know what I mean? Like plants, you
Hmm.
don't make eye contact with plants. I don't know.
No.
Also, just, I keep thinking this, like, as a, human, I'm like, there's certain animals that are extremely dangerous that I keep like thinking about, and like big cats. And
Hmm.
they're so cute. They're so
Hmm.
pretty. Those are like the most that we should fear those the most. You know what I mean? So this inherent fear of things, it's hard for me to grasp that and think that that's a thing, honestly.
I think,
Yeah.
and I could be wrong, but I think that where the fear of like insects and spiders comes from is not necessarily the threat they're posing to us directly, but that they like bolt and skittish away and hide, and they could be lurking anywhere and we have no idea. Like with a big animal, that's the same case, right? Like cats stalk you and you don't even know that they're there. But because they're bigger, we have this like false idea that we can track where they're at and that we at least know where they're at. We're like little tiny insects. They could be anywhere, like this lady that's sweeping her house, and even spider webs, because if there's a spider web, then where is the spider? And
Yeah,
it's going
that's
to come
true.
back to its spider web. So now there's fear of the unknown. We have no idea where this
Yeah,
spider or
that's
this
true. That
snake
could be
slithered
part of it.
away to.
Right.
It's just one
Devil's
part of it,
advocate.
right? What?
That applies to mountain lions too, because I see
Right, like I was
trees.
saying, they hide and they stalk, and so we don't know where
Hmm.
they're at for sure. I said that earlier, and but I think the size where we have this illusion that we have some kind of control because they're bigger and we could see them quicker and sooner, and they wouldn't just like you know jump scares.
I don't think
It's
that's
not an
true.
appropriate reaction, but I'm thinking that's where this is stemming from.
Well, also
I
mammals.
don't think it's that. I don't feel like I have any control over a spider
I don't think
versus a
that's the sole
mountain
reason.
lion.
I think that there's that influences why there's such a high amount of people that are afraid because people can avoid going hiking and being around mountain lions. You have the walls of your home to protect against a mountain lion. You don't have the walls of your
Mhm.
home to protect against a spider and bugs. They get in
Right.
there and they come and they could be lurking while you're sleeping. That's an anxious
Right.
feeling.
I think she's talking about subconsciously too, though, not just
Right.
consciously. Like it's a subconscious thing. Like
Yeah.
we're not maybe even aware of it. But also,
Yeah.
like I just wonder, like the difference between mammals and arachnids and insect. Like we have an affinity to other mammals. I think just in general. I don't know if you're going to get into that or not, Heather. But anyway, continue on, Heather.
No, because it would have been a 6 hour long
Right.
podcast if I talked about fears of
Right.
everything that we might be fearful of. But I
It's true.
think
So many
what
variables.
the yeah, this research I've done is like everything is learned. We're
Yeah,
not
that makes
born afraid of
sense.
anything.
Yeah, that
It's
makes
what we're
sense.
taught,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
Like I saw a capybara in the wild before they were cool and we knew things about them and it was like a popular thing and I was deathly afraid because it was an RUS. And I'm like, "What is that? And can it
Rodents of
hurt me?"
unusual size, for those of you who don't know The Princess Bride. That it's a
So that's
movie.
what I thought. But is it because it was inherent? It's because I didn't know what it was. And because I didn't know what it was, I didn't know how to react. So I think if you put an infant next to a capybara that had never seen it, they wouldn't probably have the reaction I did if they didn't know what it was, right? I think that even the fear itself is taught to us. Like, if
Yes.
you don't know what it
Yeah,
is, you better be afraid, right? And that's not
right.
something we're born with.
But also I think you may have been relating past experiences with rodents to this capybara rodent looking thing too, right? So there's that to consider
Maybe.
too. Like, okay, this is a giant rodent and they carry disease, and what if it bites me? I don't want to feed it. Like there's I don't know what was going on in your mind because I'm not
It was
you, but
especially
there's
after
also
the
past
incident of seeing.
experiences.
Hmm. Yeah, it was definitely related to the RUS we saw in Thailand. That was as big as Loki. It
It's
was
huge.
huge. It was like the biggest rat I've ever seen in my life. I didn't
The
even
size of a
know.
house cat.
Yeah, it was just in the middle of the street. I just remember Yanni was like, "Ah." I'm like, you live here. What are you afraid of? But it's right. You'd be afraid of a rat. I mean, you don't want that thing to bite you.
Or touch you.
Anyways, but
It could kill you
yeah,
if
it
it
is
touched
like,
you.
right. I'm pretty
It's
sure that
possible.
it has fleas and has plague. Um, because I know that from, I'll get into a little bit of that too about fear of spiders and where the plague intersects that, which is interesting, but we're getting there. Okay.
Very interesting.
So back to, they did a control study. This is like the study I was telling you about where they did study 1 and study 2. Study 1 was like the pictures of spiders versus plants, and then snakes versus fish, and what the dilation reaction was. Well, they did another study at the same time when they only provided the fish and snake pictures to the infants. The pupil dilation was the same for the fish and the snakes, which was zero 0.2 millimeters on average. So, like, they did their own control study, but just ignored it and was like, whatever. Like, okay, that shows you right there that it's not an inherent fear if they're
It's
getting the
not the
same pupil
scientific
dilation.
method.
Yeah. Okay, so in another study with older infants, which you broached on earlier, Laura, is they were 9 months old. So there was a study where they did, to infants, toddlers. One was with children of about 9 months old. They put these snakes in pictures of spiders and stuff on a screen, and they actually tried to grasp the snakes from the screen, even when presented with a live spider and snake, both that were caged. Children of about 18 to 36 months where they showed the spider or snake in a cage, they didn't express any fear, but instead demonstrated an avid interest. So there you have it. So luckily, these kids somehow weren't influenced by their parents yet. Um, and we're like, ooh, what is that? Right. So kids just naturally have an avid interest in new and interesting things, regardless of what it is. So the kids loved all the animals that they were shown, including the snakes and the spiders, and spent almost twice as much time interacting with them, like the spiders and snakes and other insects, than any of the toys. So they were like, "Oh, I've seen toys before. What is this?" So
This
we're not
makes
born
my
to be
heart so
afraid.
happy.
Yeah, I
So,
thought that was really
so
cool.
quick, I just want to interject and give a little personal experience of my own is our mom deathly afraid of spiders. If she sees one, she might die. And of course, I grew up feeling those same emotions towards spiders. And as an adult, when I have two little girls, and I didn't want them to have those experiences. And so I trained myself to not be afraid of spiders. I started watching YouTube channels. Tarantula Cat is her name. She's an amazing YouTuber. She takes very good care of her tarantulas. She's a female, so I could relate to her. She has a great respect for these tarantulas. She handles some that are safe to handle. She doesn't handle others. And so she kind of like painted this picture of them being cute, which is odd to say, but when you watch her videos, you start feeling the same emotions she feels. And so then from that point, I started to keep little jumping spiders, and my girls were very into it. They thought they were cute, they were fun. They are. They're absolutely adorable. I will pick up a jumping spider today. No problem. I found one. I was in a store in Cody, Wyoming, and there was a jumping spider on the backpack, and I could tell he needed to eat. And so I picked him up and put him outside to make sure he could get a juicy bub. I'm not afraid of spiders. My kids weren't afraid of spiders. My 10-year-old now has a friend who's afraid of spiders. And now she is showing signs of being afraid of spiders. It's hard for me to tell if she's just trying to like be like her friends and follow that trend, or if she's actually fearful of spiders. But it's so frustrating because I worked so hard on myself, and I worked so hard to teach my kids to not be afraid, but also have a respect for poisonous spiders. And then in one friendship, boom, she's afraid. It's so easily influenced, and
Pressure.
Mm.
Peer
it's
pressure.
disheartening. Yeah, I hope that's all it
Yeah,
is. I hope she's not really deep down inside afraid of spiders. But what can I do?
yeah, I've kind of had to fight mom with her influence on Oleana, which is
Yeah.
irritating. Sorry, mom, but it's like you're not doing that to my kid. And so yeah, Oleana and I do that too. Like we'll look at pictures of like tarantulas. I'm like, oh, look at that cute fuzzy tarantula, and we'll have like a conversation about the spider or the insect and be interested in it and talk about it and what
Hmm.
does it do and make it a learning opportunity. But Oleana is
Yeah.
obsessed with watching videos about spiders and snakes. And even this one guy, which might instill some fear in her, but I mean, he's putting himself in the position where he has spiders actually bite him. But what I
Yeah.
tell her is like, look how much he has to provoke them to get them to
Yes.
bite him. Like he really has to like put them on his skin and make them do it. I was like, that tells you right there that the likelihood of them biting you is like you have to tick them off. And he did it with two different tarantulas. I think they're the same species. One was male, one was female. And he thought, I can't remember, and I'm going to mix it up, but either he thought the female would be more aggressive or the male, because like I think
The
female
female.
tarantulas are known to, and it wasn't. She like he really had to tick her off, and the male got him good. Like he went right into him, and
Was it a
but he still had to
wild
like
was it a wild
tarantulas, yeah.
tarantula?
Yeah.
Okay.
He found them in the desert, I think it was, obviously, because
Hmm.
most tarantulas are in a desert somewhere, and put them, somewhere on a, little table they set up in the middle of the desert. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna get him to try to get me. And I think it was the female, he really had to poke at her before
Hmm.
she would bite him. But the male
So
was like right away,
note,
just sunk his fangs right into him.
on that same
Yeah.
note, keep in mind, like they are unpredictable. So you also need to have a great respect for them. If you leave them alone,
Right,
they will
right.
leave you alone. They are for looking and
Mm-hmm.
viewing, but we don't need to squish them and kill them. We don't need to be afraid of them because they're afraid of us too. So like also remember to have respect for these animals too, to you don't just go grab a tarantula in the wild, because they could possibly bite you, but we
Mm-hmm.
don't need to be screaming our heads off and running away and flailing fly
Oh
swatters
no.
through the house because there's a little house spider in there.
I still have
It's an
problems with it because there's
overreaction.
one of those like wolf spiders, I think they are, that we have, or
Hobo spiders are
oh,
usually the ones you find
yeah,
in your house frequently. They're smaller, they're
yeah,
brown.
this one, right, and they're just ugly, really
They
bad, and
are.
I
They're
feel
not
bad,
very
but
cute.
and so in our new office we built out the basement in this building that we have, and I'm in the sink, and it's a very shallow sink, and I go to wash my hands, and he crawls up, and I splashed water on him, and it was over,
Yeah, I
and I'm
know.
like, sorry,
Sometimes
like
there's
that's
nothing you can do.
And I
Okay,
felt
so
bad because usually I'll go get Jed and he'll put it outside. But
yeah, so I was just gonna say the best thing I ever got for bugs, because I don't mind bugs, but I don't want them in my house. So
Same.
there's like a little grabber thing on Amazon that's pretty inexpensive, and it is the best thing I've ever got. It's got bristles that don't hurt the bugs. Like you pull the trigger, it opens it up, you release the trigger, and it closes, picks up the bug, you run outside and put it outside. And
mm,
I love it because I don't
Oh,
like squishing bugs. Like I feel bad.
no.
Like if they didn't
yeah.
do anything
Yeah.
to me, I know it's
And there's
that's not.
cleanup afterwards.
Yeah.
And it's the squish too. I don't like
Yeah,
it.
it's
So I would
yucky.
rather get them and take them out. And I love this thing. It works brilliantly. I
Mm.
recommend it.
Maybe we'll share it in the
Bug
our
grabber. Bug
social
grabber.
media. I'll,
I usually
I'll
just
put
leave the
a picture
spiders
of it
in
how
my
you can get it on
house.
Amazon.
I tell my
What's
girls,
that?
we no, that's my favorite spider. It's in my bathroom. I get to choose. It's staying and it eats bugs for me. Don't touch my
Mhm.
spider.
I did have a shower, but I did have a spider, a shower spider for a while because we were gone in
Yeah.
Disneyland. And so he moved into my shower because I hadn't been taking a shower. And he was there for a few days. And then he was like, environment is not good. And
Yeah.
now he's like in the corner of my bathroom. But I did have a shower spider for a few days. And I was like, buddy, I don't think this is a good choice. But eventually he moved
He
out and
probably
didn't get
was
hurt.
like,
Because, sometimes
dang.
if I flick water, yeah.
Yeah. He was like, this
So
lady
poor
needs to put
guy.
some
But
clothes on. I don't know. It's weird. I'm
yeah,
not sure what she's doing, but
this is weird. He's not worth the water.
what is she doing in here? I don't want to see this.
Yeah, I do. I do talk to myself, so I'm sure that was weird. Okay, sorry, back to that study where they had the older infants. So the only evidence of fear that they saw during that study with the toddlers and infants was in the parents who sometimes would pull their children away from the snake and spider to look at the other objects in the room. So they were like trying to protect the kids trying to like play with the snakes and the spiders, and the parents are like, no. So I thought that was kind of cute little caveat to the study. So another study, interesting study, involved 3 Japanese monkeys. What does that mean? I don't know. They must just be from Japan. That's just what they said. Who had been born and raised in captivity and thus never exposed to snakes or spiders. So these monkeys were able to more quickly visually identify snakes than they could spiders, um, for some reason. But of course, this study was definitively limited by only testing 3 monkeys, but it does point us in the direction of a fear of spiders not being baked into our biology. So like they like identified the snakes and kind of didn't really give much attention to the spiders, but I'm wondering because the snakes are bigger thing moving and that doesn't really prove that it's an inherent fear. They were just like, "Oh, that big thing's moving. What the heck's going on?" From what I gather, that's probably what happened. And when you don't know something, I think it's inherent that if we don't know something, maybe that we get afraid of it, not necessarily just afraid of that object in particular, but afraid of whatever is in front of us that we've never seen before.
Fear of the
But
unknown.
it does point us, yeah, fear of the unknown, and I think that's the best way to put it. But it does point us in the direction of that, we're not afraid of spiders. In fact, the authors of the paper stated the following. To our knowledge, there have been no reports of primates being afraid of spiders in the wild. Not only have there been no reports of non human primates being afraid of spiders, but also several taxa, which is a fancy way of saying other species, families, or kingdoms, perceive them as actual food. So, if anything, they're going to eat them.
They're
Okay.
juicy
So,
like a
statistics.
gusher.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yummy.
I mean, I
Remember in
honestly was being
Thailand?
really serious when I said they haven't encountered cockroaches, because I will tell you, I thought spiders were the worst thing that came into my house before I moved to the South. And now I know that's not true. I'm like, I see a spider and it's like nothing to me. Like, okay, I'm going to take you outside, little guy. Cockroaches, on the other hand, I mean, it's still the same thing. I still just take them outside. But what?
They are gross. They're such a dirty little insect. I mean, ugh.
And they're
Kind of like
so
rats.
fast. And they want to
They are
hide from you.
fast.
And then you don't know where
Yeah,
they went.
it's scary,
They hide
right?
so
Where did
well.
you
I
Look at how
don't
go?
big
like
they
them.
are.
They're gross, okay? They're gross. They're way bigger than spiders that we have in our
Hmm.
country for the most part. Like the spiders are like nothing compared to them. So that's I
Yeah,
was really being
they're big.
serious. I'm not cockroaches cleared me of my fear of spiders. It really happened.
Yeah, I think
There you
exposure
go.
to things as well. Like the more exposure you get and the less threat that it poses is quite helpful. I think that's why I like watching those YouTube videos with Tarantula Cat was really
Mhm.
helpful for me. Also, I want to throw out another YouTube channel called Snake Discovery. Um, they
I like
own a
that
zoo
one.
in Minnesota and they do a lot of work with reptiles, and you can learn so much from them and learn how to be respectful to snakes as well. Like clear, good boundaries with snakes in terms of like being afraid of them and not being afraid of them. Two really good channels, in my opinion.
Mhm. Yeah, we went there. That was so fun to see the what's an alligator, the little alligator that unfortunately didn't grow because she was in a box for so long. Poor girl.
Yeah, it's a female
She's so
alligator
pretty.
that they originally thought was a male, so her name is Rex. She's really
She's so
cute.
cute. She's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I've kind of like have this affinity all of a sudden for alligators because I've seen these like alligators and crocodiles where people like treat them like dogs almost. I mean, I don't think you can fully trust them, but
No,
they somehow kind of semi domesticate these alligators or crocodiles. Like there's this kid where he calls I think it's a crocodile, calls it, and he's like playing doctor with it, and it's allowing him to do it. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe
until it
could be
eats him.
AI. It could totally be AI.
I
Yeah, I
oh
don't
no,
know.
I don't like
I don't
that.
know, but I watch this guy that does have alligators in captivity, and he talks about like how they're on instinct because he'll like tap the water and see how it reacts because it's all based on instinct to like if you do something in particular in the water, the alligator cannot help but instinctively react and chomp on it. So you probably can like figure out how to work with an alligator to where you don't provoke those instinctual, instincts of behavior. Oh, sorry, moving my hands around. So I mean, I think those are an animal that do go on basic instinct. I mean, they're like old. They've been around forever. Okay, so statistics of threats. I thought this was interesting. Spiders versus snakes, which I had an idea this kind of what it was, but it makes sense that snakes would elicit a greater response than spiders, actually. There are about 50,000 known species of spiders, and only about 100 of those are a concern medically. And that comes out to about 0.2% of spider species worldwide that could be a potential threat. And of those 100 medically significant species of spiders, fewer than 30 have caused human deaths, which is only 0.06% of spider species that are capable of killing a human, even in places like South America, Australia, where they have the big old spiders, which contain, of course, some of the world's largest and most dangerous spiders. On the other hand, out of the 3,500 known snake species, 600 of them are venomous, and 200 of those are capable of killing a human. That comes out to 17.1% of snake species being venomous and 5.7% that can kill a human. So if we're going to have any type of ancestral fear, it's going to be a snakes versus spiders. Is fear of spiders a cultural thing? I think it is, right? After what we've talked about. So, fear of spiders is not universal. It appears more common among people of European descent. In the Middle Ages, this is where this plague comes in, spiders were linked to the plague, and that association may have become a socially learned aversion passed down through generations. We, of course, later learned that plague was spread by fleas and rats, while spiders just simply shared the space, and so they're like, oh, spiders are here, it must be them. Moving outside of Europe, we see in ancient China that spiders were referred to as happy insects and were associated with good luck. The spider grandmother was one of the creators of the world in Hopi mythology. And for the Navajo, the spider woman was a protector of humans. Now, in Japanese folklore, spiders would take on a role of a villain. So, spiders weren't always regarded with the high esteem there, but we do see that throughout human history, spiders weren't universally despised. If we were born with a fear of spiders, we might expect to see this in all cultures, but we do not. So where does this leave us? Well, being afraid of spiders is most likely not human nature. Cultural differences, historical misconceptions, social learning, and personal negative experiences seem to play a bigger role than our biology. I don't expect you to start loving spiders or to befriend every spider you see, but next time you spot one of these 8-legged cute little creatures, take a moment to consider where your reaction really comes from. So that's about all I have.
I expect
I
you
do
to
have
be
some stuff on
friends with them.
psychology,
They're
but
nice. They done nothing wrong.
yeah.
They're so scared of us. That's why they run.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah,
So that's
they're
all I
so
had first for
tiny. I
once.
mean, kind of makes sense that
Yeah.
they're harmless, you know. They are ugly and foreign looking, but
I know.
you know, I don't care
Yeah.
if I honestly, if I see them out in the wild, I'm like, ooh, and I'll look at them. It's if they're in my house that I'm like, you're going outside.
Yeah.
But out in the wild,
Mm-hmm.
I'll look at them. Like some of them are interesting around here because I'm in the south. Some of them are like, I saw a Halloween spider that was like really orange.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty.
She was pregnant, so that was kind of scary. But she was really far from my house, so I was like, "You're fine.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave you
Well, and they
alone."
also help with bug control, and so
Yeah,
they're not all bad. I'm not gonna lie. I won't pick up just any old spider either. Like
right.
I don't want them on me.
Yeah,
I want
No.
they're
No.
okay around me, but there's a lot of things I don't want on me. And I was also
Mm-hmm.
thinking about when you were talking about the alligators and their instinct. I was thinking of like my 10-year-old loves to play little pranks on me all the time, so she'll like kind of tickle me or something, and my instinctive reaction is to like swat where she's tickling me.
right.
Like, oh, it's a bug or there's something on me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
anyways,
We
like
we
we do
just
it too,
moved.
right?
Yeah, we just moved to a new property, and I use these, those apps that you can identify things, and because there's
Hmm.
this one spider that was like moving really fast. I would like move really fast for like a foot and then stop and then move really fast for like a foot and we were like watching it, and it's called a rabid wolf spider. We're like, oh my gosh, it's rabid. It's totally harmless. I don't know why it's called that, but they're good size. They're like bigger than a
Probably
quarter,
it's
and they move
behavior.
like we compared it to like the girl in the ring. Like that's how they move.
Oh yeah. Creepy. That is
But
creepy.
again, way outside in our on our property in the back, so we don't care. But we've seen quite a few of them. They're not cute, but they're not ugly either. They're just kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That is interesting. I've never seen that. That would be creepy though. Like, what are you doing? Knock it
Yeah.
off.
So wolf spiders, I really love them. I'm very interested in them. And if I have a wolf spider in my house, it has to stay. It's allowed to stay. It's my pet. They don't build webs. They like tackle other spiders and eat them. They Their babies, when they hatch, they crawl on top of mommy's back, and basically like she's their first meal. Yeah, it's really sad, but also like
Oh,
really loving too. She sacrifices her. That happens a lot in the animal
I
kingdom, right? The
know,
mommy sacrifices her life for them.
right?
I could
Mm-hmm.
go as far as saying that human mothers sacrifice our lives for our children too, but we won't get into that.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I remember back in the day when I was a child and I was dreadfully scared of spiders because it was a learned behavior for me. And there was a spider that was running across the kitchen, and I got the bug spray and I sprayed it, and all of a sudden these little tiny dots came off the back of the
I
spider.
remember I was there when you did that.
Right.
That was like
It
that's
must
a
have been a wolf
vivid memory.
spider, and it was like it was a horror movie. I was terrified. I was like, "Oh my
Mm.
gosh." Now I know it was a wolf spider and that was her little babies. That's so mean.
It was a horror
But
story because all you're like, oh, look at this big, huge spider. I'm going to kill it because it was just sitting there. I remember it was just like not moving.
she was slowly
And Laura
dying.
sprayed it and just like hundreds of little tiny. You're like,
Yeah.
wow, this is
Oh, that is like a
arachnophobia
horror
come to
movie.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
But yeah,
I
that's
like the little
vivid.
jumping spiders too, because their
They're
eyes are
cute.
so cute. Like if you
Cute.
actually
Yeah.
look at them and their little eyes, they're
Hmm.
adorable.
Yeah, they're kind of trending right now too. A lot of, TikTok and shorts, they have little videos on these little jumping spiders, which is good and bad, but I think it's helpful for people who are scared of spiders to start with a jumping spider because they are very cute. And they can't even bite you. They're so tiny that you can handle them. They'll never bite you.
Hmm.
Oh,
Oh, spiders. Oh,
I know. I feel bad
spiders.
for them. Nobody likes them.
Yeah. I think it's like we're trending towards like being more accepting of things that aren't like us. So hopefully that'll keep trending. And our
Yeah.
culture will change slowly but surely, but we'll see. Yeah.
I think it is one example of us changing for the better. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you,
Well,
Heather.
yeah, I don't know if we have
Yeah, that
like
was a
any
fun one.
other episodes that I could relate. Do
Well,
we
the
have other
dogs.
episodes where you talked about?
The
Oh,
dogs.
yeah.
That's a good
Yeah.
one. If you like this
Canine,
episode,
what
what
did
is?
the canine evolution something or other. I can't remember the
Yeah,
title
that's
right
a cute
now,
one
but
too.
it has the word canine in it. If you find that episode, I talk about the evolution of dogs, which is pretty interesting. And that video I found that I sent you, remember, Rebecca, the one where it's the dogs
Yeah.
first see humans and they're like, look, they
That
got
one was,
food.
I
Okay.
love that one. That was so hilarious.
It took my episode
I'm
and
not
like
wearing those clothes though.
put it in. Then it like flashes pictures of dogs.
I'll
and
do that, but I'm
clothes.
not wearing those clothes.
I'm not wearing, I don't know what they have on, but we're not wearing that.
Yeah.
But it pretty much
What are
took
they
the
wearing?
evolution of like took my episode and in that little video that's hilarious, like it talks about
gosh.
everything that I talked about in my episode. It was really funny. I'm like, see, I was right. I was right about that. So yeah, it's a cute episode if you're a dog lover. I do talk about cats a little bit, and my sisters defend cats. But yeah, I definitely say take a swing over there and take a listen. All right, well, everybody, hopefully keep listening. We'd love to hear from you. We're open to all kinds of comments. So see you next time. Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.